So who am I speaking to here, just so that I know my audience?
I'm Blair Croce from the SMU Daily Campus.
Okay.
I'm Alex Moore with thatnerdshow.com.
Okay.
And we also too represent the official film festival YouTube channel as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, now that I know who y'all are, my name is John Chris, one of the writers and producers and photography models of Echoes of War, which used to be entitled A Relative Stranger. This was a loose adaptation of a short film that Kane, Senes, and I produced roughly 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been kind of a long journey to get to this spot right here. We definitely went back to the drawing board with this feature version. Definitely completely changed the plot, a little bit of the story, added in some antagonists and sort of filled some holes that we found that people had with the short, so that was super beneficial. So I guess it was similar to like the Whiplash scenario, to where we always kind of knew that we wanted to make a feature. We knew that there was a lot of material and story there that we really could dive into, so the short was really a shortened version of what we knew could be realized as a really powerful story to be told as a feature. So it's taken me all over the world. Kane, my partner, is Australian, so I lived in Sydney with him for a while, for roughly 6 months, writing and rewriting the script. You know, it took us over a year to write this script. A lot of back and forth. We had some drafts that we completely threw out the window. We had some material that was lost because we were uploading it onto Dropbox, and I think doing it improperly. So there was one point where we lost completely half of our script, and I had a nervous breakdown and walked out to the park and stayed there for a while. But went back to the drawing board and just rewrote everything from memory, and it came out, you know, even more powerful. So that's kind of the creative connection that Kane and I have, that's been rare for both of us to find in a creative partner. So, you know, my background is in Los Angeles, moved from Los Angeles to Sydney, then back to Austin, and started scouting for locations, meeting with assistant directors, cinematographers, actors, location scouts, started meeting with money people, raising some funding, doing a Kickstarter, putting together a production team, and eventually shot it in Austin, Texas, actually inside the city limits at a great place called Pioneer Farms, which we were shocked to find that was like 10 minutes away from my house in Austin. It was like 50 acres of pristine, late 1800s property that I believe was in the Bell family. It was kind of a famous Texas legislature. So that's kind of where we are now. So it was a long journey. We're super proud of our work. And it's a special moment when you're behind closed doors and you have something that you believe is really special that the world needs to see. And nobody believes in you, you have no money, you've got nothing except for your willpower and your dreams and your ideas. And to see it to this point is pretty fascinating. But you know it when you come up with it, because that's what drives you for the 5 years of no money, broken relationships, broken families, to see this to fruition when you're not really getting a lot in return. It's just that spark, that feeling that is rare. So we knew it was super special when we were writing it, that's kind of what drove us to make it against everybody saying that, you know, you shouldn't do your first full-length feature as a period piece, you shouldn't shoot this in Texas. Basically, you know, everything that we shouldn't have done, we did. And, you know, we got a great piece. We got CAA behind us, Hooked Badge, after he liked it, which again was against all odds. And then other actors started falling from there. So we got super lucky. We're super excited. We're really happy to be here. Again, we've had the door shut in our face, you know, by 50 other festivals. So I'm just fortunate that James has taken a shot with us. So that's where we're at now. I don't even know if that's what I'm supposed to be talking about, but that's what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen it or read anything about it or even know anything about our project Echoes of War, but we're really proud of it. So if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything for me, I'm kind of an open book. So.
John, I'm curious, what was the defining moment when you figured out, you know, how you flesh out the feature? You had a relative stranger, you had this story. What was it that gave you the full feature?
I think, first off, it was the success of the short, right? So, you know, if we wouldn't have gotten such positive feedback from the short, you know, Kane and I have our own production company. We've got a slate of films that, you know, 2 or 3 scripts that we've already fleshed out, and you know, another project that we're optioning at the moment. So we've got other options, and we kind of went to the drawing board and said, what's our best shot at making a feature that we can afford, that we can do quickly, and that people like. And so with the short, we won the Bronze Palm at Mexico International. We won Best Film at Red Wasp. We got nominated for Best Western at Trail Dance in Oklahoma, which is a Western intensive film festival. We got into Buffalo Niagara, which is in New York, you know, with a little Western shot out in, you know, Los Angeles. So we knew that the evidence was on paper that, like, hey, we're winning all these awards, everybody likes it, but they want to know more about Mary, or they want to know how Wade, you know, found this Confederate gold. There was a sort of MacGuffin with Confederate gold with the short that we took out in the feature. But we want to know about Mary Riley. We want to know more about Wade. We want to know, you know, how Mary died and how Seamus ended up out here in nowhere, Texas. And we were like, okay, then let's give people what they want. And I think it was at that moment to where we were like, let's make this, you know, let's shelve 1 or 2 of these other ideas that we're super passionate about, and let's go ahead and just execute what we started. So in my mind, it's like a 5-6 year project. Kane will probably tell you differently, but, you know, for me, it all began with the short. And what we wanted to do is, I'm really anti calling our film a Western, because what we set out to do was to make an anti-Western, was to take all of the bullshit gunplay and shooting pistols out of people's hands and roping bad guys and the whole notion of good and bad and black hat and white hat and all of this silly Western stuff that we had grown up on, and wanted to get to the core of films like No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood, this sort of country noir that was coming out while we were writing this. And that's what we wanted to do. Gray characters, gray landscape, gray everything, sort of noirish type material. So there's a lot of influences for this film. There's 2 right there, picked up on what I was saying. But also, you know, Shadow of a Doubt, Hitchcock's, Joseph Cotton, that to me was what I wanted to make, was this sort of relationship piece that just happened to be set in Texas during a time period that I kind of love. And Kane and I really gravitated towards that relationship of, you know, uncle, how you look up to your family members, what happens if, you know, I go home for Easter and I'm a completely different person. Do my cousins still love me and look up to me? What if I'm a murderer? What if I'm a deserter? What if I'm a drug user? How does that affect my family? So really at the core of it was a family piece that we knew the characters were there, so we made it.
You said this is, you were trying to make an anti-Western. Do you think this is a little more of an anti-war film because you have a returning veteran from the Civil War and some of those themes with it?
I think in terms of political message or actual content of the film, for me, again, I would like to keep it open-ended and gray. I would not classify it as an anti-war film, although we definitely interviewed people with PTSD, spoke to some of my friends who have fought in Iraq. Kane went to extents to interview people in Australia who had gone to the war and were battling these PTSD elements. Definitely Wade is struggling from PTSD, which was non-existent in 1866, which is a huge topic of our film, is that we live in a society today to where, you know, even our World War II vets really didn't have even the ability to sit in a room and talk to somebody about how terrible it is going to bed at night and envisioning the 50 people that you've killed with a hand grenade or whatever. So they're definitely huge elements of our film. And that's another reason that it's set in the Confederate South. You know, why does it have to be set in Texas in the Confederate South? They went through a lot of shit too. You know, I mean, I think people sort of skip over that and really like to talk about good and evil and, you know, the North being righteous and the South being these racist, awful people. And there is a lot of that, and I'm not defending any of that by any means, but there is a lot of people just caught up in the disgustingness of it. You know, you look at Beth Broderick, who plays Doris. That was a character that I really loved writing because I wanted to show that this sort of antebellum, wealthy, possible slave-owning mother could be so damaged and humanized and destroyed by this war, who took her son, who took her neighbors, who really was the war being just a terrible thing in American history on both sides. And that's skipped over a lot. And so more of being an anti-war film, I wanted to show that that war as a whole is the antagonist of our film. And that antagonist isn't black or white, it's gray, if that answers your question.
We were able to get some prominent figures in the acting world, such as Ethan Embry or William Forsythe. I was wondering, how did you go about coming up with these people, or did they just sort of fall in your lap, and how was the approach on casting them in the feature length versus the short film version?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my good buddy Paul Ashton, who's another Aussie, is showing his film here as well, feature length. He plays Wade in our short film. So it's really exciting to see that the people that we've surrounded ourselves in Los Angeles from all over the world have sort of blossomed with us. And that's always been important for Kane and I, is to surround ourselves with good, talented people that wanted to get out of the film industry what we wanted to. So, you know, during the short film process, we had to go with what we had access to, and Paul was a phenomenal actor. We brought him in to read for the feature version. definitely played it a completely different way. But we knew that we wanted to explore options with the feature. So casting for this film went on for an extremely long time. Emily Schweber assisted with us out in Los Angeles, who's an amazing casting director. And she really got the ball rolling. I mean, her initial sheet when we met with her in Beverly Hills was, I mean, some crazy names. And so that was the first step of realizing that, hey, we're first-time feature filmmakers and we can actually like get some of these big names. So we went back and forth a lot, made a lot of offers. We casted for months. We never settled on anybody until we knew it was the right person. And we initially offered or wanted to offer Badge months before he actually, I think, read it or accepted it. And I believe his agent, Mr. Green, was sitting on it for a while, and finally, I think he called us up and was like, hey, this is a really good script, and I think I've got somebody in mind for it. If y'all looked at James Badge Dale, and we were like, yeah. If you don't remember, we went to him like 3 months ago, man. He's worked with Scorsese, he's worked with Spielberg. I mean, just crazy. And he really responded to the material. So we offered him, and then everybody kind of went from there. Ethan was definitely not the way we envisioned it. You know, he kind of pulled a Marlon Brando Apocalypse Now by showing up to set with his head shaved, and we were like, we don't know if we were going for that, Ethan. And he was like, dude, trust me, like this is the way I want to play it. I'm like, all right. So we're real collaborative. And I think that having Emily on board is really what made that a possibility. And that we knew the content was good. We just needed to get it in people's hands, which of course, to the doorkeepers of the Avenue of the Stars in Los Angeles is really tough. So that first big break with CAA, I think, was the launching point. Maika was a huge pickup. The Guest is just crushing it at Sundance. Finding Owen out in Florida or wherever Owen's from was amazing. I mean, he read for us 2 or 3 times on Skype, and we were like, man, we got to have this kid. Reese, another Aussie, really connected with Kane, super talented. And Ethan Embry, I mean, an actor that we all loved growing up, and that's done some amazing work lately too. And he really brought it. So that was definitely a long and arduous process. We went through a lot of offers with A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, and then finally came around to the cast that we have now.